and we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Happy spring. Happy Tuesday. This is my 71st, 72nd Travel Tuesday during the pandemic. I've been hosting these on Tuesdays to kind of keep us all talking and dreaming about travel. And of course, now we're starting to travel again. So it's wonderful to have you join us. I am here today with my partner, my business development manager, Hillary Brown from Globus family of brands. If you don't know Globus, they have a host of companies underneath their wing. Globus, which is a large touring company, as well as Avalon River Cruises, Avalon Waterways. And my partner Hillary will go through, give an overview, I'm sure, of all the companies that are under the Globus brand. But particularly today, we're going to focus on Globus and the trips to Newfoundland I'm doing, and then moving into an overview of Avalon. Just want to kind of give that little summary, and also just note that last weekend, I think we did a travel solo together presentation. So if you missed that and want to see the recording, please let me know. I have another presentation. I'm a panelist with Journey Women at 7 p.m. this evening. I think we have over 130 people registered already. But if you want to join in on that, let me know. They are asking now for donations to Ukraine. So there's a optional donation amount that you can provide. But I'll be joining some other travel advisors to talk about being travel ready and continuing to travel in this post-pandemic world. Please God, post-pandemic. We've had enough, right? 2 years.
Yes.
With that, let me turn it over to my partner, Hillary. Thank you, Hillary, for joining us. I will turn it over to you. And if you don't mind, I will interject. As my clients know, I'm from Newfoundland. I'm pleased to be taking this group to my home province, which I think is the best province in Canada, of course. And it's a great time to be visiting Newfoundland. So with that, over to you, Hillary. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sheila. And it's wonderful to be here and to be here with all these lovely ladies. So thank you for taking the time out of your day and allowing myself to share the Globus family of brands. And of course, you know, what's on our bucket list right now, you know, as Sheila had mentioned, we're ready to travel again. We're ready to discuss what's on our bucket list. And as Sheila also mentioned, that taking you back to her hometown is truly on one of her bucket lists. And, you know, just to tell you that Newfoundland and Labrador, yes, it is one of our top seller tours. So just to keep in mind, you are very lucky that Sheila went and booked this group ahead. She's got the space because, as I mentioned, this is our #1 Canadian tour that has always sold out. So further ado, I am actually just going to close my screen here just you can still see me, and I'm just so nobody else can see, then that way I can focus on the presentation. So again, I think we're all ready to travel again. The spring is here, the sun is shining. I was just speaking to a colleague just before getting on this presentation saying, I need to get out, I need to travel, and I'm ready to travel. So I know that all of you are as well. So just before we start on the actual presentation, the beauty of Newfoundland and Labrador, as Sheila had mentioned, we are a Globus family of brands. We have 4 brands under our belt. We have our Globus, which is our first class coach touring. We have Cosmos, which is our value pack coach touring. Monograms, which is our fully independent travel product, and of course, Avalon Waterways, which we'll speak about at the end of the presentation today. We've been in the business for 92 years. We have over 500 vacations, visiting 70 countries and over 6 continents. So we have a wide variety of product. The only continents that we do not travel with is Antarctica. We did it 1 year just before the pandemic, but we're back down to 6 continents. So let's just get started with the beauty of Newfoundland and Labrador. And as I mentioned, it is truly one of our top selling destinations. And of course, with Newfoundland and Labrador, it's a bucket list destination. It's a place of globally significant geology, national history, archaeology, marine life, and human history, which we're going to delve into in the next couple of slides. But with 29,000 kilometers of coastlines, 18,000 miles, including just over 9,500 kilometers of bays, breathtaking fjords, guts, and inlets, from the most easterly point in North America to the unspoiled shores of southern Labrador, hiking or sea kayaking is the perfect way to explore waterfalls, abandoned fishing villages, and bird colonies and historic sites. So just to go into a little bit further, of course, everybody loves a great find. Imagine a restored Viking settlement over 1,000 years old, perched near the crashing waves of North Atlantic, or a lovely fishing village full of wharves and boats overlooking icy Iceberg Alley, a rocky cliff nestled by thousands of seabirds, creating a massive movement and sound, not to mention the oldest city in North America where historic and culture interactively meld. These are just a few of our top destinations waiting to be discovered. The best seasons to travel to visit the whales, the seabirds, and the icebergs. As the whales and the birds migrate north and the icebergs sail south, there's actually a chance to experience all three of these wonderful sights in one trip. Like so much in nature, there are many factors that vary from year to year, but you'll be lucky if you'll be able to witness these exciting spectacles. So the best seasons, whale watching, I looked this up, is June to August. Bird watching is May to October. Iceberg viewing is April to August. Walking and hiking is from May to October, and kayaking is May to October as well. So, of course, Newfoundland Labrador is a place of epic beauty, charm, and intrigue. Just off the coast of two world's largest ocean currents converge, the meeting of the cool Labrador Current in the warm Gulf Stream creates an ambience of marine life that attracts thousands of whales and provides rich nestling grounds for millions of seabirds. Labrador's current carries 10,000-year-old icebergs from the Greenland along the coast of Labrador and northeastern Newfoundland, where they meet the Atlantic Ocean's Gulf Stream, creating one of the world's richest marine habitats for whales and seabirds. Cod is king. You'll agree to that, Sheila. The fishery.
Oh, yes.
The fishery has shaped our economy, culture, and traditions, with more recent influences coming from the development of the oil industry. Europeans fished off our shores for centuries, giving ways to a rich and expressive, warm-hearted culture expression in different picturesque cultural communities just outside St. Newfoundland.
And Hillary, let me interject, because I
Yes,
know
please.
we have some folks here that are joining me on the September 22 trip, as well as some folks who are doing May 23. Hillary's just mentioned the iceberg season, and you can see what is deemed Iceberg Alley coming from Labrador and heading straight down from the tip of Newfoundland down to St. John's. That is where we do get the icebergs during that season. Typically, May is a great time to see icebergs. That's why I'm going to take a second trip with Globus next May. So we're going to do the first trip this year in September, seeing everything that's possible, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail later. But I just want to point out, if you do have an interest in the icebergs, that's why I'm doing a second trip in May.
Perfect. Thank you, Sheila. And I actually noticed that on this tour, there are actually 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. One of them is being Lant-Ox Meadows National Historic Site, first and only authenticated Norse site in North America. The second World Heritage Site that you will be visiting is Grossmorn National Park. And I'm going to go into, again, these further detail later in slides. But this provides a rare example of continental drift plus spectacular scenery caused by more recent glaciation. Also, you'll be visiting the Red Bay National Historic Site, where Basque whalers once produced the oil that lit the lamps of the 16th century Europe. And then, of course, Mistaken Point Ecological Reserve, fossils, the oldest large complex life forms found anywhere on Earth. This site is the only place in the world where you can view 565 million-year-old deep sea floors that accurately preserve the ecology of ancient ocean floor communities. So again,
those
yes.
clients that like UNESCO World Heritage Sites, obviously this is a great trip to kind of cross some of your bucket list. I have some clients that travel the world in search of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and they have a list that they want to go to. So obviously Newfoundland offers some fantastic options to get some UNESCO World Heritage Sites that you ordinarily would not see, and all on one trip.
Yes, absolutely. And some amazing facts that I actually looked up as well, which I thought was very interesting. The seabird capital of North America, Newfoundland and Labrador, is a little bit smaller than California, slightly bigger than Japan, and twice the size of the entire United Kingdom. I thought that was very interesting. The island of Newfoundland covers 111,000 square kilometers, which is 43 miles, an area that rivals the size of 3 maritime provinces, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI combined. So, and it's only 3 hours away from Toronto, which is absolutely amazing. So, you know, Newfoundland and Labrador is larger than some countries. It certainly doesn't feel crowded with a relatively small population of only 510,000. So, you know, there's a lot of fun facts when it comes to Newfoundland and Labrador.
3 hours from Toronto, a little bit more from Ottawa, of course, if we're doing connecting flights, but a world away, totally different than Toronto. And
Absolutely.
Ottawa.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here's what you need to know about our geography. There are 2 parts of the province. There's Newfoundland is an island, and Labrador is connected to the mainland Canada, and it borders the province of Quebec. To give you a better idea, Newfoundland and Labrador is more than 3 times the total area of the maritime province, as I mentioned, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI, and would rank 4th in size behind Alaska, Texas, and California, and if it were one of the United States. So again, it's almost 1 3/4 times as Great Britain, as mentioned. So, you know, taking a cruise is one of the most popular ways to visit as well, Newfoundland and Labrador, and making your own way is sometimes exactly what's called for, especially if you're interested in finding or losing yourself along the way. But of course, we have this wonderful tour that we're going to be fully escorted with. And of course, I want to speak about some of the animals that you will hopefully be able to visit and see as well.
And let me just interject, Hillary,
yes, of course,
about the Maritimes versus Newfoundland. And that's you said that very quickly. That's a very important distinction for people from Newfoundland. Newfoundland is not a maritime province. So the 3 Maritimes are New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. And Newfoundland is very much a world of its own. Just point that out for people who haven't been yet. If you don't know that distinction, it is pretty important to people from Newfoundland.
Thank you. The largest concentration of migrating humpback whales in the world, you will see in Newfoundland and Labrador. Over 22 varieties of marine mammals fill our abundant coastline, and you'll be able to view the land and sea. Whales and dolphins come for peace, quiet, and the odd photo opportunity. This is truly the best place in North America to really appreciate the whales. The world's largest population of feeding humpback whales migrate from the Caribbean, staying in our waters from April through to October, and it's approximately 5,000 to 10,000 humpbacks come for a tourist season. And then, of course, we also have the seabird capital of North America, as I mentioned, and that is known as the Atlantic puffin, which is seen in this picture here. And they're also known as the sea parrot. They are very comical to watch in flight as they fly close to the water with their bellies full of caplin, so their balance is somewhat compromised. They have special qualities. They mate for life. They traveled to Witless Bay Ecological Reserve to view over 260,000 pairs of Atlantic puffins. Over 35 million seabirds gather here every year, and they come for the tourist photo shop. And we are the seabird capital of North America, and you can get your birding list and tick off those northern gannets The Murs, Atlantic puffins, osprey, falcons, hawks, storm petrels, razorbills, and bald eagles. So of course, wonderful things, birdings to see. And the province has an impressive total of 6 ecological reserves, including the magnificent Cape St. Mary's Ecological Reserve. And then, of course, when it comes to nature, as we said, that we've got the whales, the birds, and the icebergs. With 29,000 kilometers of coastline, it's not hard to spot plenty of whales, seabirds, and icebergs. There are 22 species of whales alone, including the world's largest migrating population of humpbacks, which we spoke about. And then iceberg watching is something on your list. Iceberg Alley is the best on the continent to see these 10,000-year-old frosty giants. And then, of course, when it comes to wildlife, there are more than 120,000 moose, and the population density in Grossmore National Park is one of the highest in North America. So I believe that we have been told to drive cautiously, especially at dusk or dawn. It's also home to one of the largest caribou herds and some of the continent's biggest blackbirds. And of course, there's also visit spectacular salmon ladder, where migrating Atlantic salmon return to the spawning grounds of the Exploits River at the Salmonid Interpretation Center, one of the most impressive salmon enhancement projects in North America. Now back to ways to watch the iceberg. The best ways to watch the icebergs are by boat tour and kayak and from land. Luckily, thousands of whales and millions of seabirds migrate north late in the spring and early summer. This is a place where they meet. Not only do you see a magical display of birds, you might get to see humpbacks and birds like gannet and puffins all in one fell swoop. Icebergs are so plentiful around these parts, we actually put them to good use, like iceberg water and our very own spirits like iceberg vodka, gin, rum, and of course the popular iceberg beer, which I have actually personally tried, and I brought it home for my husband and he loved it too. And they are
I was visiting my brothers in Mississauga and Oakville this weekend, and we were drinking some iceberg vodka. It is quite good.
Oh, there you go. That's something I still have to try. And of course, they're all very refreshing no matter what time of the year. So almost 90% of an iceberg is underwater, hence the phrase tip of the iceberg. Its maximum width underwater is 20 to 30% larger than you can see on the surface. The average depth of draught of an iceberg is slightly less than its apparent length above water. So again, of course, the best time to see the icebergs are the best viewed in late May and early June along the coast of Newfoundland, and between March and July along the coast of Labrador. And of course, there's the traditional music. This music is part of the natural and cultural landscapes. You can find it practically everywhere you go, from kitchens and pubs to concerts, halls, and festivals in every corner of the province. The traditional music of Newfoundland and Labrador is rooted in Irish, Scottish, English, and French music. And that to me sounds like heaven. And thanks to the bands like Figgy Duff, the Great Big Sea, and musicians like Ron Hines, and legendary fiddlers like Rufus Ginchard and Emily Benoit, it's known throughout the world. So feel free to clap, stomp along to jigs and reels featuring fiddles, accordions, and bodhrán drums, or just get swept away by old Irish love songs passed down from generation to generation.
Thank you. And people like Rufus Ginchard and the other folks you mentioned are just tremendous. Newfoundland storytelling is key to who we are as a people and how we've evolved. And music remains so much ingrained in Newfoundland culture and how traditions are passed on from one generation to another. So Newfoundland music cannot really be separated from Newfoundland itself. So I do hope you come and get to experience that.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. I think I might be joining your tour, Sheila, by the way.
Hey, sure, come on.
It sounds absolutely, it sounds heaven. I can't even say any other word but heaven. So the tour that Sheila will be hosting is a 12-day tour from Corner Brook to St. John's. This will be including a Viking Trail, Southern Labrador, and Cross Island itinerary. The tour will include breakfast daily, 3 lunches, and 6 dinners. Some of the destinations and sightseeing, and we'll go through these a little bit further as the slides go on, is Corner Brook, Grossmore National Park, Port au Choix National Historic Site, Strait of Belle Isle, Red Bay National Historic Site, Lansdowne Meadows, Arch Provincial Park, Grossmore Area, Gander, Twillingate, Terra Nova National Park, of course, Trinity, Bona Vista Peninsula, Witless Bay, and St. John's, where you'll have a farewell dinner and a traditional screech-in ceremony, which we'll talk about in a little while as well.
So you can see for the folks that haven't been booked yet, you can see we're covering a good part of Newfoundland. We're going from Corner Brook up to the tip of the Northern Peninsula over into Labrador, coming down through Iceberg Alley and then ending in St. John's. We're not doing a full circumnavigation, but we're hitting all the key sites. Everything from Gander, where we'll talk a little bit more about Come From Away a little bit later, but that's what Gander is famous for. Twillingate, Iceberg Alley, and you're seeing Witless Bay there, the bird sanctuary that Hillary just mentioned. My hometown is Corner Brook, Newfoundland. We'll talk about that a little bit more now. And then Grossmore National Park, where we have Western Brook Fjord and all the terrific hiking that is possible there. So it really is a fantastic itinerary. Nancy just put in the chat. It really is a great way to see Newfoundland. It's not something you can do. I think people who think of going to visit Newfoundland don't really realize the size of it. And thank you, Hillary, for taking the time to say, you know, it really is the size of California. You wouldn't go to California and think you would see it all. So this is, we're picking the best, and you're going to get a great overview of Newfoundland.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sheila. I think I went going backwards. Here we go. Okay. So we have another tour that Sheila will be hosting. And this tour is Newfoundland and Labrador. This is an extra day with the Iceberg Festival. So just Sheila will be hosting 2 tours with the Globus family of brands. So why travel with Globus? And, you know, number one is it's the simple put a tour and perfectly planned vacation package. We take care of the research, the planning, the reservations, the logistic. We add in the currency conversion, not that we have it for Canada, and really, you know, take it all away, all the hassles away from you. We want you as a client to have fun and enjoy this absolutely wonderful experience when touring with Sheila. There's no driving, there's no navigation, so there's no crying, there's no arguments. Again, you're on a Mercedes coach. I'll show you that in the next slide. And you know, they're a Mercedes coach. The average year is 5 years. We do not refurbish or rebuild our coaches. We're all the most modern contemporary coaches out there as well. And of course, we have access to free Wi-Fi on our coaches as well. So it's all luxury, all in a package with a bow on top. And of course, the tour delivers both daydreamers and restful nights, which really it's, you know, a tour includes pre-screened brand names, hotels, superior first-class products, centrally located hotels, as well as just the right amount of amenities. So again, tours, we've been in the business for 92 years. We have something called Skip the Lines, the VIP access. And that really does allow you to have access to the must-see sites and allows Globus clients to skip the lines along the way. And then, of course, with Globus as well, is it's on your own, you see, as well as on a tour you do. So seeing the majority of sites at a destination is only part of the equation. Examples including partaking in a tango lesson in Argentina. Of course, one of the local favorites that we will be doing on this tour is taking in a screech, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But again, really trying to bring the local culture into our tours. But there is really a rock star on your tour, and that, of course, it's Sheila. And with Sheila, we also have our tour directors that are an expert who lives and breathes the destination and shares their knowledge with you. So again, they'll be behind the sights to the life and the fascinating stories behind everything as well. And as I spoke about your meals, they are all your breakfasts are included, 3 lunches and 6 dinners. So again, tours save 2 favorite things, and that is money and time. So here's our coaches, as I mentioned, and this is really the top-notch transportation. And we have our Wi-Fi on those as well, as I mentioned. The great thing about our coaches as well is their theater style. So the further back you are, the higher you are. So you're never staring at anybody's head either. So let's start off with Corner Brook. And before Captain James Cook became a famous South Seas explorer, Cook refined his surveying and cartograph skills along the coast of Newfoundland in the 1760s. His charts of the Bay of Islands are remarkably still accurate enough to be used today. A statue in his honor overlooks the bay from Corner Brook. Copies of some of his charts of the area are still on display here as well. This West Coast city is renowned for its world-class salmon river. The Humber Valley is nestled in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains and stretches 70 kilometers from Deer Lake to the city of Corner Brook. Driving along, you can see the lush trees, the bushes against the beautiful long-range mountains, which are particularly striking in the fall. So again, welcome to Corner Brook, and this is where the remainder of the day is at leisure to explore the town and to relax at your hotel as well.
And we're going to be going in September. We're not going to see the leaves at their peak. That tends to be more October, but we will start to see the leaves change, which is why I'm picking September as well, that the weather will still be warm and we'll get a touch of the leaves, but get the benefit of the warmer weather with the leaves and get to see Newfoundland at its finest. This is Gallant-Halloran. Just want to mention, Hillary showed a quick picture of the bus. We will answer some questions later. I think the bus typically holds about 45, Hillary?
44 passengers. The average size is 36.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So this is, as I mentioned, the hotels that we use are superior first-class products, centrally located hotels. This is the Delta St. John's in St. John's. It is a superior first-class hotel. And it really is the idyllic location in the heart of one of Newfoundland's most charming cities. Its soft lighting, traditional yet modern furnishing, and home-like amenities make the Delta St. John the perfect hotel to retreat to after a day of sightseeing. And again, Sheila, if you'd like to add anything else, you're more than welcome to.
Well, the Gallant-Halloran you're showing, B just shared, it's a super old-fashioned style hotel. It certainly is. It's also where I got married, so I have it has a special significance in my heart 35 years ago. But it's a Tudor style, fantastic location right in the heart of downtown Corner Brook, but also a wonderful little hiking trail that goes right around. So it's a great opportunity for people who come and stay to walk around on a very easy paced hike around the lake, around the Corner Brook stream, and then to come back and walk around downtown to a restaurant.
Wow, thank you, Sheila. And that little extra with the history of where you got married, that's wonderful. So again, the Bay of Islands, this is located on the west side of the Burn Peninsula. The park comprises 51 hectares of varied habitat, Pebble Beach, marsh and stream, and of course, bird watching. This morning, we're going to meet your traveling companions and your tour director during a welcome breakfast, and then you're going to enjoy an orientation tour of Corner Brook, followed by a break to see the Captain James Cook National Historic Site. And then you're going to travel along Humber Arm to the Bay of Islands with excellent photo opportunities on the way to the Frenchman's Cove. And here we're also going to enjoy a stop at Lark Harbor and savor great views of Guernsey, Tweed, and the Pearl Islands of the return to Corner Brook.
So let me just add this picture. If for those of you that I'm connected with on Facebook, you might see a picture of me on my Facebook page. My husband and I are standing at the edge of this outcrop here, which is called Bottle Cove. It's spectacular. You can see everything like the islands and all around Bottle Cove, Lark Harbor, and out to the ocean and Woods Island. Fantastic spot for pictures. And I think we have, I think that's a picture of Carla, our
Yes,
colleague,
correct.
with her dad at Bottle Cove, which is what I'm referring to. And also we'll talk a little bit more about Captain Cook, I think, on the next slide. But for those of you who know Captain Cook, I think he liked the phrase Bay of Islands. He named a spot in New Zealand, Bay of Islands. He named it in Corner Brook, Bay of Islands. But he is certainly has his stamp on a lot of places throughout Western Newfoundland in particular, as well as Hawaii, of course, and other South Pacific islands. I guess he got a little warmer after he came to Newfoundland.
So yes, the Captain James Cook National Historic Site that we had mentioned that we were going to explore. Before Captain James Cook became a famous South Seas explorer, Cook refined his surveying and cartograph skills along the coast of Newfoundland in the 1760s. His charts of the Bay of Islands are remarkable and still accurate enough to be used today. A statue, as Sheila was just mentioning, in his honor overlooks the bay from Corner Brook, and copies of some of his charts of the area are on display here, which I had mentioned a little bit earlier. So just again, to give it a little bit background, I hope you don't mind myself sharing all the history with Newfoundland, because I was learning this myself. During the 7-year war, James Cook accurately surveyed the entrance of St. Lawrence River, giving General James Wolfe a critical advantage in bringing his forces up the river to the Plains of Abraham. After the war, Cook would be tasked with surveying the southern and western coasts of the island of Newfoundland and the nearby coast of Quebec and Labrador. Spending 5 years completing his task, he produced the most accurate maps of the area, which would remain in use for the next 100 years by fishermen and trades and settled territorial and fishing rights between British and French settlers. After Cook's surveying was finished, the British Admiralty would send him on further voyages to chart various regions of the Pacific Ocean. And in a park on the summit of Crow's Hill, various plaques surrounding the statue show copies of Cook's maps, and they really tell the story of the cartographer that made his name surveying the lands of the present day here.
I'll just add a note from Julia, who said that she used to work at CN Hotels and had her first ever Caesar made at the Glenmalin when it was part of the CP hotel chain. So.
See, I love the feedback, Sheila, because this is wonderful to hear. I love, it really shows that everybody has a wonderful experience and can have a completely different experience as well, right?
Yeah.
So I love hearing that. Thank you for sharing. So the next one is Gros Morne National Park, UNESCO heritage here. And it took Mother Nature 485 million years to mold Gros Morne National Park into the geological and visual wonder we know today. It's the second largest national park in Eastern Canada. And as I mentioned, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And Gros Morne National Park stretches across just over 1,800 square kilometers of Western Newfoundland as part of the towering Long Range Mountains. So again, the facilities here where, we can discover is, while we're there, is Discover Center, Woody Point. From the facility, you can see most of the major scenic features of Gros National Park. The Tablelands, Gros Morne Mountain, Bonnie Bay, and the Lomond Peninsula. Landscaping around the facility showcase typical local wildflowers and shrubs, and walkaway entrance leads visitors past boulders on some of the most important rock types in the park. Also in the visitor center, Rocky Harbor with an information desk, helpful staff Tuckamore Gift Shop, backcountry registration service, a theater to watch the holding ground, which is the Grossmore National Park film, and a relaxing area to connect to, of course, free Wi-Fi to take those pictures and share up with your social media, all your friends and family. And then also there is a cruise, the freshwater fjord of Western Brook Pond, and it's an easy walk past natural bog and forest leads to the dock for a scenic boat trip of Western Brook Pond, cruising the base of the sheer cliff walls where waterfalls tumble to the end of the freshwater fjord. And this is daily, again, mid-May to mid-October, depending on weather, of course.
Yeah, so it's really cool with Grossmore National Park. You have a lot of hiking opportunities. We have some included activities, of course, like Hillary mentioned, but it really is a unique national park, as you can see. That is an actual picture. I have pictures similar to this, as do any of my family members. You might have to climb up to do a higher hike, more strenuous hike to get this particular vantage point, but you can easily see the bottom part of the fjord from the easy hike and to do the boat tour that we've mentioned. Hillary mentioned tablelands too. For those of you that have a geological bend, no pun intended there, it's one place I think there are only 3 places in Earth where the Earth's mantle is exposed, and tablelands in Newfoundland is one. So you can see like the orange kind of rock and it's exposed. And that is part of Grossmore National Park as well. It's just fantastic.
Thank you, Sheila. And then, of course, another.
That's tablelands.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So this is the picture provides Grossmore Mountain from Norris Point with the community of Woody Point in the distance. Encircled by tiny seaside communities and encompassing forest, freshwater fjords, bogs, barren lowlands, moose, and striking cliffs and shorelines. This area is also world renowned for the complex geology. It was here that geologists proved the theory of the plate tectonics. So there you go, as you were mentioning, Sheila. And the tablelands, a mountain of a flat-topped rock of a kind usually found only deep in the Earth's mantle, is a truly awe-inspiring sight. And of course, Woody Point is where the Discovery Center is located, and Trout River area are located on the south side of Bonny Bay as well.
And Lisa, it's Bonny Bay, but Lisa.
Bonny Bay, sorry, thank you.
Lisa just put in the question about whether or not geological information is available. I will send a recording to people, as well as a link to Grossmore National Park and details from Parks Canada. I will share that link, and that link will have all the information about tablelands, the history of Grossmore, and how everything was formed, all the geological features. So I'll share that with you and follow up, Lisa. Go ahead, Hillary. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. And Broom Point, Gross National Park. This is Canada's earliest fishing settlement. 3 Mudge brothers and their families fished from the site from 1941 to 1975, when they sold the property to the national park. With the family's generosity, the building has been restored. And this site consists of a cabin and a fish story restored to the way they were when the family lived and worked here. Boats built by the Mudges are exhibited in the fish store along nets, traps, and another homemade gear. And the cabin is filled with many original artifacts, including handiwork and furniture the family donated for restoration. All right, so let's talk about some of the lovely food. So just to let you know, so total is 11 breakfasts, 3 lunches, and 6 dinners. So long known for seafood, wild game, and delicious traditional meals, the province has garnered a new reputation for mouth-watering culinary experiences by the world-class chefs. With local restaurants and chefs winning national and international awards, it's clear that food culture in Newfoundland and Labrador have never been more delicious. World-class chefs have opened new and exciting dining spots featuring top-notch homegrown ingredients. Of course, there are the CFAs, which was the Come From Aways, bringing their own culinary traditions and flavors. While St. John's is the hot spot, there are celebrated restaurants across the province, as well as a regular food and music festivals as well. So throughout the traveling season, many regions of the province host festival of music and food. Chefs from around the world provide cultural rich dining experience, often at the edge of the ocean. Roots, Brands and Roars, home of the King of the Cod competition, takes place in Elliston every September. So on day 4, we're going to board your ferry to across the Strait of Belle Isle, known as Iceberg Alley, to Blanc-Sablon. And here we're going to visit the Red Bay National Historic Site, which is a UNESCO World Heritage, and this is located in southern Labrador. This is during the mid-16th century. Large numbers of right and bowhead whales drew whalers from the Basque region of Spain and France to the Strait of Belle Isle, where they are established as a major whaling port at Red Bay. They're located on the Strait of Belle Isle. Red Bay comprises the largest known 16th century Basque whaling station in North America. And Red Bay National Historic Site Basque Whaling Station was actually declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in June in 2013. So typically the whaling stations were comprised of rendering ovens, workshops, temporary dwellings, and wharves. A cemetery and lookout sites are also present. Period artifacts and massive assemblage of bowhead and the right whale bones comprise the collections. And then, of course, we take the ferry back to St. Barb, enter L'Anse aux Meadows, the National Historic Site, the only known Viking settlement in North America, and of course, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. L'Anse aux Meadows lies at the tip of Newfoundland's Great Northern Peninsula, and L'Anse aux Meadows National Historic Site here is the only known Viking site in North America and the earliest evidence of Europeans in the Western Hemisphere. And this is, of course, one of the Vikings with our tour director and, of course, one of our coach drivers as well. So you'll be able to have this wonderful opportunity of pictures yourself.
So if any of you were taught the ditty in school when you were in elementary school in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. We know, we've known for quite some time in Newfoundland that actually North America was discovered by the Vikings, and it was 1,000 years before. So it, I think it was finally proven with some carbon dating, not that we needed the proof, but it was finally proven this year. But you will get to see these sod huts, and they have some great actors who reenact the Viking times and show you the tools and all that kind of thing.
Exactly. So this is a reconstructed sod hut that you're looking at the moment. And as Sheila had mentioned, they will be explaining how the Vikings lived, and you'll be able to see a Norse artifact dating back to 1000 AD. And day 6, St. Anthony. This morning, we're going to travel along the Viking Trail with a stop at Arches Provincial Park to photograph the 2 large arches carved by the pounding sea, as you can see right here. And of course, you know, not to forget your wonderful food, local favorites. As I mentioned, throughout the trip, you'll have an opportunity of having local favorites, enjoying the local seafood. This is a wonderful opportunity that you'll be able to enjoy on the tour as well. And then we're going to board a boat for a scenic cruise on Bon Bay. Relax as you take in the views of Grossmore Mountain. You're going to learn about the history of the small villages nestled on the shores, and keep a lookout for the whales and bald eagles. And tonight this is where you're going to have a seasonal seafood dinner. And that's where I'm saying that is going to be one of your local favorites. And of course, we cannot forget Gander. And Gander is the home of the international airport, the aviation crossroads of the world's largest international airport. And during the war years, thousands of aircraft under the direction of the Ferry Command passed through the Gander en route from North America factories to the battlefront overseas. And then after World War II, Gander became the hub of transatlantic commercial airlines routes, and the town site was moved from just north of the airport to the west of the airport. And we're going to visit the story of the aviation in Newfoundland and Gander, where it's told in the North Atlantic Aviation Museum. And of course, Gander is where the Tony Award-winning Broadway musical Come From Away is based on a true story from the isolated community of Gander. Newfoundland played the host in the to the world during the 9/11, unfortunately. And it's it's what started as an average day in a small town turned into an international sleepover when 38 planes carrying thousands of people from across the globe were diverted to Gander's airport strip on September 11th, 2001. Undaunted by culture clashes, language barriers, the people of Gander cheered and stranded travelers with music, open bar, and recognition that we're all part of a global family. If you have not seen the play, I do know that if you do have Apple TV, it is complimentary on Apple TV. My husband was unfortunate not to go and see it in person, but he has seen it on TV on, I believe it is Apple, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the Apple TV version is, I just watched it again last month. It's fantastic because it is the Broadway musical. And
Yes.
that was filmed. So they actually show you the opening of going into the Broadway show and the excitement that comes with a Broadway show. But then you see the show and you see how very minimal set and these cast of, I don't know, 20 people who become different characters, and they move chairs and make it a kitchen and then make it into a room, you know, a bedroom, or make it into a school. It's really a fantastic done show. I would highly recommend it. And going back to what Hillary said about Gander, Gander used to be known as the international crossroads of the world. The big jets could not fly overseas, so they would come to Gander, refuel, and then go overseas, which is why all the big movie stars, Frank Sinatra, Doris Day, all those folks came to Newfoundland. When you go through the Gander Museum, you'll see different pictures of those folks that have visited during those earlier times. When the North American airspace was shut down, Gander was one of the few places that could house the jets. And besides the fact that, you know, governments made decisions that if some of these jets have bombs, then maybe it's better that they came to a place where there weren't too many people. Newfoundland still welcomed all those people. You had a community like Gander that didn't even have half of the people that landed that lived in that town. Certainly there were no hotels that could accommodate the number of people that landed. And it was the story of how the mayor and all the people came together and just welcomed everyone who landed in Newfoundland and put them up and fed them free of charge and clothed them and brought them home to shower in their homes. And it's a true story. And it certainly makes me very proud of my fellow Newfoundlanders.
Wow. And that is something that you should be proud of, Sheila. As I said, it was a wonderful experience, and it really shows how, you know, everyone came together and the Canadians were there for everybody, right? So it was absolutely amazing to watch. And you're right, Sheila, you know, I will watch it over and over again as well. So now we're going to go and visit Long Point Lighthouse in Twillingate. This is the nearby Long Point Lighthouse in Twillingate, which was built in 1876. It's one of the best places in Newfoundland to see the icebergs. Built off a bluff, it overlooks the outer reaches of Notre Dame Bay. And you might actually also catch a glimpse of the whales here that spend their summers feeding along the coast. The cold Labrador current funnels icebergs into Notre Dame Bay through what is known as Iceberg Alley. And on a clear day, you can see icebergs many, many kilometers away. So of course, the best way to see an iceberg is up close. And in Twillingate has a few tour boat companies that offers the service and the town bills itself as an iceberg capital of the world. So again, Twillingate is once the hub of the lucrative fishery in the part of Notre Dame Bay. Twillingate was so prosperous, it had its own newspaper, which was called the Twillingate Sun, and a championship cricket team. So again, lots of history there as well. And then with luck, you might spot whales along the coast en route to Terra Nova National Park and spend the next 2 nights in Clarenville, situated in the beautiful Trinity Bay. We're going to continue to Cape Bonavista to admire the beautiful cliffs and coastlines. And in Bonavista, we're going to learn how modern North America began when when John Cabot made landfall here in 1497. When Italian explorer Giovanni Caboto, or John Cabot, as he is locally known, first discovered North America in 1497, his words were "O bueno visto." When translated into English, the phrase means "Oh, happy sight," which is certainly fitting for what becomes the town of Bonavista, the historic site of Cabot's Landing. So again, you'll be able to catch a glimpse of a 10,000-year-old icebergs from the top of the Cape Bonavista Lighthouse Provincial Historic Site, and look over to the horizon where the lightkeepers have watched since the 1840s. And if you look close enough, you actually might catch a glimpse of a puffin nesting ground just behind the lighthouse. And then Witless Bay Island, where whales and puffins abound. Board your boat for a narrated cruise around the 3 islands. Newfoundland has the largest concentration of humpback whales in the world, and also known as the seabird capital of North America, which we spoke about at the beginning of the presentation, with the largest Atlantic puffin sanctuary, again, in North America. And then we're going to continue to St. John's, visiting Cape Spear National Historic Site, en route the most easterly point in North America. Some of the location highlights here is the Cantwell family of lighthouse keepers lived at Cape Spear for over 150 years, maintaining the light and ensuring safe travels for mariners along Newfoundland's coast. You're gonna come to see the remains of the Fort Cape Spear, a gun battery to defend the strategically vital port of St. John's from the threat of German submarines during the Second World War. And then Cape Spear is on a scenic route of the Seaside East Coast Trail, a renowned hiking trail that follows the Avalon Peninsula rugged coastline for 540 kilometers, just over 335 miles. And then many bird species usually seen only far out to sea can be spotted at Cape Spear, including the Manx shearwater, the sooty shearwater, and the greater shearwater, as well as the occasional murre, razorbill, and skua or jagger. Hopefully I pronounced all those correctly, Sheila.
I'll just mention, for those who know Terry Fox, remember Terry Fox, this is where he started his run across Canada.
And that's a great point to add as well. Thank you. And then, of course, St. John's, Newfoundland is the capital city of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's the capital city, shares the same latitude of Paris, France, Seattle, and Washington. Just some fun notes as well. And also the Narrows, the harbor entrance with Cabot Tower crowning Signal Hill, a National Historic Site on the left, as you can see there. And then it's a city known to distinctive architect, extensive walking trail system within the city called the Grand Concourse. And from cruise ships to fishing boats, the St. John's Harbor is always a warm and welcoming place of significant history and beauty. So the rooms, the tall buildings on the left photo with the red roofs here, that's the houses of the Provincial Archives, the Art Gallery and Museum, to create a single dynamic and multidisciplinary cultural institution, and it's a must-see attraction for all visitors. The cafe at the rooms is open during visitor hours as well. The menu emphasizes Newfoundland and Labrador's food heritage, of course, focusing on traditional fare with an electric twist. And then also really to note that the colorful architecture and hilly terrain at the old port of city filled with walkways and welcoming paths. The church to the right, the top of the photo, is Basilica Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. This actually was built of Newfoundland and Irish bluestone and granite. The church is the shape of a Latin cross, a town clock, and 9 bells, including the 2-tone St. John's bell, are located in the twin towers. The basilica houses John Hogan's revered dead Christ, while the ornate Italianate ceiling and polychromed and highlighted in gold leaf here. They are
just mentioning, Hillary. I think the basilica is on another slide. It's not in this picture, but
oh, sorry. Oh, did I miss a slide? Oh, Signet Hill. There.
Signal Hill. Okay.
Yes.
Or maybe she was just speaking to it and it
might have been
another
yes.
picture, but I can share that later if anybody wants to see it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And then, of course, Signet, just also what's included as well. So before breaking down what's included, it's important first knowledge that your pre-planned itineraries, you're going to be with Sheila as your host. Everything is going to be taken care of you. We spoke about the meals. We spoke about our day by itinerary, what we're going to see, as well as the meals are part of the Globus tour. And we plan so you can enjoy. And as I mentioned, the meals, depending on where the tour, some perhaps many meals will be included, but know that the meal is included if it's intended in at the maximum time as well. So as I mentioned, you have 11 breakfasts, you have 3 lunches and 6 dinners as well. We were speaking about the local favorites as well. And, Sheila, maybe you want to talk about the screeching. You're probably best to explain it. This is my certificate. I was screeched in. But again, it's an optional ceremony performed by a non-Newfoundlander, known to Newfoundlanders as a come from away or mainlander, and it's involving a shot of screech and a short recitation and kissing of the cod. So do you want to add anything on to?
Sure. I mean, it's the kind of thing, if you come to Newfoundland, you are no longer a stranger, you're part of the family. This is kind of a fun ceremony. It's just to laugh and joke and celebrate the culture again. But it's just, you're screeched in. The screech is a rum that was actually brewed in Jamaica. But a Newfoundland screech is a famous rum, very strong proof. The idea being that once you drink it, you screech. So the ceremony itself is just something fun to kind of celebrate and welcome you to the Newfoundland family. So then when you come back, you are part of the crew.
Perfect. Thank you, Sheila. And then, of course, if you're looking for something off the beaten track and exotic, again, by spectacular and nature and the warmth of human soul, then make Newfoundland and Labrador the top of your list. So from, researching and learning about Newfoundland and Labrador, it definitely sounds home away from home and open with arms, which is absolutely lovely.
Hillary, I appreciate all the additional research you did. Hillary's not from Newfoundland, a colleague of ours, and I did this with Hillary last summer. And Carla and I shared a lot of anecdotes back and forth. And Hillary, you've done some additional research to kind of stand in Carla's stead. So I really appreciate that. We've shared a lot of information. I also asked you to touch on Avalon, but I'm aware of the time. I guess between you and me, we were interjecting a little bit much. Do you have a couple of more minutes to quickly touch on Avalon, or should we schedule that?
I do. It would probably be about another half hour or so. So completely up to you, the ladies. We can always do another evening on Avalon, whatever you would like.
I think another half hour would push it. I do apologize if people wanted to see Avalon today. If it's okay with you, can I invite you to come back and we'll talk about Avalon in detail? But maybe you could just give a very brief synopsis of Avalon and where you travel, and then we could open it up to questions about Newfoundland and then come back to talk about Avalon in more detail.
Absolutely. So Avalon Waterways, again, is part of the Globus family of brands. We are celebrating our 12th year with Avalon Waterways, and we are the youngest fleet on the water. Our average age is 8 years. We do not refurbish our ships. We do not rebuild our ships. We only build new ships. We have 16 ships, and they are all sister ships. You have to understand, when it comes to river cruising, in Europe, all river cruises are built the same width and height. And of course, that's for going through the locks and under the bridges. What Avalon Waterways has done is we've actually, I don't know if I hear, what we've done is we've pushed the walls out to have 11x7 open air balcony, fully open, and have the beds facing the view. You've got to understand that history happened by the water. There's not much to look at when staring at a wall. And that's really the benefits of Avalon Waterways. Every day includes a city tour. The real difference between a coach tour and a river cruise with Avalon Waterways is that you only unpack and pack once. All your meals are included. Wine and beer is included with dinner. Every day includes a city tour, just like your Globus tour. Local favorites are included. But again, we can definitely go into a lot more detail. The average size of our ships are 150 passengers. And again, the one thing about Avalon Waterways is we have larger staterooms with less passengers, which allows us to have more space.
And I think thank you for covering the numbers traveling, because that's fantastic in a continuing COVID and hopefully post-COVID world. We all want a more intimate experience. And when you consider a river cruise ship having 168 people maximum, you are with a group that are already double, triple vaxxed, whatever the country requirements are, where you're sailing through, and you have to be, improved health and safety standards. I mentioned that about wherever the country you're sailing through, because river cruises have to continually raise the bar and meet the threshold of whatever country you're sailing through. So if Germany has higher standards than Austria, you meet the Germany requirements. But it's perfect for people to meet and interact, smaller group, more intimate, and you sail through the heart of where you want to be, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're in the heart of the city. We're in the hillside right next to the castles. I mean, we're in walking distance to absolutely everything.
Thank you for the very quick overview. I will invite you back, but I just want to check we're over time in terms of trying to keep this to an hour. Does anyone have any questions while we have Hillary here? And I'll schedule another talk specifically about Avalon.
I love Bee's puffin, by the way. She's got on her desk there in front of her.
He comes from just south of St. John's.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, terrific. And Bee, you interjected about books you suggested people read.
Yeah, they're wonderful books, and they give you a lot of history. They'd be a really good introduction to Newfoundland for those who haven't read them.
So you mentioned Random Passage by Bernice Morgan and The Shipping News by Annie Proulx. That I can concur. I've read them. The Innocents by Michael Crummy is another great book. And there's so many wonderful books about Newfoundland to read and see.
Yeah. May I just ask a question?
Sure.
Just regarding Globus, as I'm traveling with Kathleen Globus in September, I'm just assuming that everything you said about Globus and the care they take, etc., for Newfoundland covers Europe and anywhere you go.
Yes, absolutely. So with the Globus family of brands, we are a family of brands company. You need to be fully vaccinated. It can be mixed vaccines at least 14 days prior to travel.
Yeah, that's not my concern. It's just, it's the buses, I assume, are as new and as what you've described.
Yes.
All of that stuff.
Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, they're Mercedes coaches. They're a 3-axle coach. Really, Hillary, what does a 3-axle coach mean? It means that it's longer than all the other coaches, which gives you that leg room as well.
Have you any sense, and I know it's really too early to be asking, but any sense of what the war that's going on over there now may do to some of your tours?
Honestly, everything is as a go right now. We're not, the only thing we have stopped is our Russian tours. But everything, you know, Carla, who was supposed to present today, she's actually going on the lower Danube, which is, ends in Romania. We're still traveling as planned. So yes.
Yeah, thank you.
The number one priority for our Globus family of brands has always been the health and safety. And
Oh, yeah.
we feel that for any reason there is, it is unsafe to travel anywhere, then we will absolutely stop.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the folks who are here, either about Newfoundland or Globus or touching into Avalon, since I promised a bit more on Avalon and we had to cut it short? Lisa, regarding trip to Newfoundland, how long in advance does one have to sign up for the tour? Well, Lisa, I do have only 2 rooms left for the September 2022 trip. If that interests you, please let me know. I currently have a $300 discount, early booking discount. I think that's going to disappear relatively soon because we're no longer early. I also have group air. So the tour itself is probably about 45, 46 people. I have about half of that or a bit more. And I have the space. I think the trip itself outside of the inventory I have in group is already sold out. So if you want to join us in September, please let me know. I do have clients going other times and it is completely sold out. As Hillary mentioned, it is Globus' most popular Canadian trip. And probably North American trip, I think you said.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I can't go this year as I'm actually meeting my 2-year-old granddaughter for the first time because of the pandemic. I'm traveling to do that. But I'm thinking in terms of next May.
Well, next May, I have a few more rooms available. I do have, if you're traveling as a solo, we might have to, we might have all the solo rooms gone, but we can double check that or also see if there's a possibility of pairing you up with someone if that's of interest to you. Next May gives you the benefit of seeing the icebergs. We have a bit more room for next May, but September is already pretty close, pretty tight.
And how do I find out? Like, do I just, this is my first time through all of this. So I just contact you for further information.
Welcome, welcome. I'm glad to have you as a first timer. I will be sending an email follow-up to everyone who attended today. I will send a recording to this presentation, as well as information about the 2 trips that I'm hosting with Globus.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Any other questions from folks? Well, with that, let me share. I do have some lists of restaurants I'll be sharing with my clients as well. We have a lot of inclusions with the Globus trip, but there is opportunity for free time as well, especially in St. John's at the end, some magnificent restaurants, which you probably have heard of, Raymond's and the Fork and Mallard Cottage. There's some wonderful spots. So I can share information after that as well. And of course, you can do pre or post add-ons in Corner Brook or St. John's if it's not available with Globus in terms of the inventory. I can certainly either work with Globus or book something separately. I do have a quote for Group Air as well for September. Please let me know if that's of interest. Julia is saying Newfoundland is on her bucket list. So let me see if she could join us here in September. That'd be terrific. Hillary, thank you so much for joining today. I don't think there are any last minute questions, but I do thank you for your time and being so willing to jump in the breach, as Newfoundlanders would say.
It's my pleasure.
To jump in for Carla, my Newfoundland colleague.
I learned a lot. So hopefully I tried to pronounce hopefully I didn't butcher too many cities there, but I did learn a lot. So I appreciate you allowing me the time to share all the history that I learned and what we have to offer with the Globus family of brands. And Sheila, as I mentioned offline, we'll set a time up that we will have an Avalon presentation. Absolutely.
Terrific. Thank you. And just a final parting note for those that have looked at my background picture, it is, the Western Brook Pond. As you go into the fjord, in Grossmore National Park. So you can see just a snippet, and that's a photo I took, and I'm not the best photographer by any stretch, but that's a photo I took and it's untouched, just to give you a sense of how beautiful Newfoundland is. Thank you everyone for joining. I certainly appreciate your time and attention. I'll be following up with the recording and details about the trips. Thank you again, Hillary. I hope everyone has a great Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you,
See
everyone.
later.
Happy Tuesday.
See you later.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care.